Most drivers walk into a tire shop already beaten. They think there are only 4 or 5 brands worth buying, and every one of them costs a fortune. That's not an accident. That's exactly what the big names spent decades and a lot of money making you believe. After 20+ years turning wrenches, I can tell you the truth they'd rather you never hear. Some of the best tires on the road wear a badge you were taught to walk right past. I've got 9 of them for you today. Value brands that quietly outperform their price, most of them built in the same factories as the expensive stuff. And the one sitting at number 1, a brand you have probably never heard of in your life, that a major independent lab just ranked ahead of both Goodyear and Bridgestone, ahead of them, for a fraction of the price. Stick with me, because by the end, you'll never overpay for a set of tires again. Number 9, Yokohama. Here's a brand people glance at and assume is second tier, and that assumption costs them real money. Yokohama isn't some off-brand. It's an original equipment supplier that shows up on new cars straight from the factory. When a value tire is good enough to bolt onto a car before it ever leaves the plant, that tells you something the marketing won't. Take the Avid Touring S. It's the definition of a just drive it tire. Quiet, long-wearing, a treadwear rating that promises real mileage, and a warranty that backs it up. I've watched these come off high-mileage Camrys and Accords with tread still to spare, looking better than premium tires that cost nearly double and got babied. Here's what they don't want you doing the math on. A solid set of these runs you maybe 100 to 140 a tire, depending on your size, where the big-name touring tire beside it on the rack wants 220 and up for performance you will never feel on your morning drive. Same road, same car, hundreds of dollars kept in your pocket. Number 8, Toyo. If you drive a truck or an SUV, this is the one the tire counter guy usually steers you away from because there's more margin in the badge he's pushing. Toyo builds serious rubber, especially for anything with some weight and some miles on it. Their all-terrain and highway truck tires hold up to real loads, real heat, and real distance. Let me show you what that looks like in the real world. 2 Silverados come through the same month, both right around 110,000 miles, both work trucks. One's on a premium, all-terrain the owner paid top dollar for. The other's on a set of Toyos that cost noticeably less. Same wear pattern, same grip in the wet, same quiet on the highway. The only difference showed up on the receipt, and it wasn't small. A premium truck all-terrain can run you $260 to well over $300 a tire. The Toyo doing the same job sits closer to $150 to $190 on 4 corners. That's the difference between a tank of savings and a car payment. Number 7, Falken. This is a brand the off-road crowd already whispers about, and everybody else drives right past. Falken's Wild Peak line has earned a real reputation for all-terrain grip and toughness, the kind of tire that gets you up a gravel road and back without drama. But their touring tires are just as quietly good for the person who never leaves pavement. I had a retired electrician come in with an older 4Runner he swore he'd keep till the wheels fell off. He'd been quoted somewhere north of $1,300, closer to $16 for a name brand all-terrain set, and it stung him because he was on a fixed income. I put him on a set of Wild Peaks for somewhere in the $700 to $900 range for all 4, fitted and balanced. He came back a year later, told me they'd never left him stranded, and asked why nobody had ever pointed him to them before. I told him the honest answer, because nobody makes as much money selling them to you. So let me ask you this, when was the last time anyone at a tire shop offered you a value brand first? If you can't remember one, that's not because they don't exist. That's the business working exactly as designed. Number 6, General Tire. Now here's where the story gets good, because this is where you find out how the game is really played. General Tire is owned by Continental, the same Continental that sits near the top of every premium ranking. General isn't a knockoff of a good tire. It's built by the company that makes the good tire. Look at the Altimax RT45. It carries a mileage warranty longer than most people will ever put on the car, and it leans on the same engineering DNA as its expensive Continental cousin at a badge price that's a good deal lower. I've pulled these off cars past 100,000 miles and found even, honest wear, the mark of a tire that was engineered right and not just priced high. Here's the part that should make you a little angry. A quality General all-season sits around 90 to 130 a tire, while the Continental badged version of nearly the same idea wants 180 to 230. You're not paying for a better tire at that point. You're paying for the letters on the sidewall, and the company selling you both is laughing all the way to the bank. Number 5, Uniroyal. Here's a name that's been on American roads for over 100 years, and most people have been quietly trained to forget it exists. That forgetting was very profitable for somebody. Uniroyal is owned by Michelin, not copied from, not inspired by, owned by, built under the same roof as the tire you were told was the only safe choice on the shelf. Look at the Tiger Paw touring line. A long tread wear warranty, a quiet highway ride, and dependable wet grip from a tread compound that holds up season after season without demanding attention. I've watched sets of these go 70,000 miles and still pass inspection, on cars whose owners were sure they'd have to buy the good ones to get that. So ask yourself something. The last time you bought tires, did anyone behind that counter mention that Michelin makes a value brand sharing its engineering? Of course not. Pointing you to the cheaper badge under the same parent costs them margin, and margin is the whole game. You can put a full set of 4 Tiger Paws on a Corolla or an Accord for roughly $340 to $480, fitted and balanced, where the premium Michelin beside it wants nearly double for a difference you'd need a closed test track to ever feel. Drop a comment and tell me the last set of tires you bought and what you paid. I read them, and I'd bet good money some of you got charged for a badge you never needed. And if you think that parent company trick stops with Michelin, wait until you see who owns the next one. Number 4, Cooper. Cooper has been building tires in this country since before most of us were born, and today it's owned by Goodyear. Same story, different giant. The value brand and the premium brand, one corporate parent, 2 very different numbers on the sticker. A home health aide came in last winter driving an older Camry she needed on the road to reach her clients. She'd been quoted north of $800 for a name brand set and told me flat out she couldn't swing that in 1 month on her pay. I put her on a set of Coopers for closer to $500, maybe $550 with the install. She called a couple months later, after a rough stretch of rain and slush, just to say the car had never once felt loose under her. That's the whole point. She kept her job and she kept $300. Here's what they don't tell you. Cooper's all-season and all-terrain lines lean on Goodyear's testing and resources, so a lot of the time you're buying the same engineering budget wearing a humbler badge, and giving up almost nothing where it actually counts, in the wet and over the long haul. Quick reminder while we're here, if this is already saving you money, hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep making videos like this one, and it costs you nothing. Because the next brand isn't just good value, it's one an independent lab put its own name behind. Number 3, Hankook. If you still believe budget means risky, this is the brand that ends that argument for good. Hankook has been an original equipment supplier for BMW, Mercedes, and Hyundai for years. That means German and Korean engineers sign off on this rubber before it ever rolls out on a brand new car. And in 2026, Consumer Reports officially recommended the Hankook Kinergy XP, not a paid placement, not an ad read, an independent outfit that buys its own tires and tests them to destruction, putting its name on a value brand. That tire carries a 75,000-mile warranty, wet grip that holds when the road turns, and a price that walks right up to the premium touring tire and undercuts it. Figure around $120 to $160 a tire depending on your size, against north of $220 for the big name all-season hanging on the same wall. And here's the thing, as good as Hankook is, it isn't even the biggest surprise on this list. The brand waiting at number 1 is one almost nobody in this country has ever heard of. And that same kind of independent testing just ranked it ahead of both Goodyear and Bridgestone. We're almost there. Number 2, Kumho. For years, this was the name people said quietly, like they were embarrassed to admit their car rode on it. They shouldn't have been. Kumho has quietly become the value brand the tire pros reach for when their own money's on the line. Their Solace and Exta lines pull down real recognition in independent testing, the kind of wet grip and tread life that used to belong only to tires costing twice as much. A retired school teacher rolled in on a tired old Accord he was determined to keep past $200,000. He'd been quoted more than double what he expected for a proper set, and he was ready to just nurse the bald ones through another winter, which is how good people end up in a ditch. I put him on Kumho's instead. He drove that Accord 2 more years without a single tire complaint and never spent a dime past the install. That's the whole game right there, keeping the paid-off car alive instead of getting shoved toward a new one. Figure $85 to $125 a tire in a common size, against the premium performer it runs stride for stride with in the wet, which wants $240 and up. Same grip when the road turns slick, half the money, and the only thing you gave up was the logo. Which brings us to the one I told you about at the start. Number 1, Vredestein. You've probably never said this name out loud, and that is exactly the point. Vredestein is Dutch, one of the oldest tire makers on Earth, building rubber since before the Model T. And here in North America, almost nobody has heard of it. Not because it's obscure junk, because it never spent the fortune on billboards and race sponsorships that trains you to trust a name. Here's the part that should stop you cold. For 2026, Consumer Reports ranked Vredestein the number 3 tire brand overall, 3rd out of every brand they test, ahead of household names like Goodyear and Bridgestone. Every single Vredestein model they put through the ringer earned a recommendation. All of them. That is a level of consistency Michelin sits at, and Michelin is a name you'd repeat in your sleep. Think about what that means. A brand you couldn't have named 10 minutes ago tests shoulder to shoulder with the most trusted rubber in the world, and it's been sitting there this whole time while you were told the only safe choice was the expensive one on the end cap. The Quatrac and the Ultrac lines give you grip in the dry, composure in the wet, and manners on the highway that shame tires wearing far prouder badges. And you'll pay somewhere around $160 to $210 a tire, where the top-ranked premium tire beside it wants $240 to $270 for a sliver more performance. You will feel exactly never on a normal drive. This is the gold mine hiding in plain sight. Not the cheapest tire on the wall, the best kept secret on it. The whole reason you never heard of Vredestein is the whole reason it's a bargain. No marketing budget baked into your price, no famous name to pay for, just a very good tire from a company that let the testing do the talking while the loud brands took your money. You were never a sucker for wanting to spend less. You were only ever one search away from knowing where the real value was hiding. If you want to know which of your car's built-in features is quietly wrecking the reliability you paid for, the stuff the manufacturer buried and hoped you'd never turn off, click the video on the left. I'll see you there.